Are there any mysteries right now about the universe that are getting you going that you're really working on or trying to figure out, or that the collective is trying to figure out?
Yeah, we're trying to unravel what happened before the Big Bang. The Big Bang is thought to be the origin of the universe. Now, whether that was the origin of time, whether that was the origin of all matter, all energy, everything that was, is, or ever will be, is one of the hottest questions in all of science. We don't know for sure that our universe is unique. In other words, there could be other universes, parallel universes, universes that exist parallel to us in time or in space, at the same time, or both. And there could be as many as an infinite number of so-called universes within the multiverse, what's called the multiverse. So that is perhaps one of the biggest mysteries of all time, not just of modern day science. And until now, it hasn't been possible to identify ways to answer that question. People ask me all the time. Do you? I was there's a podcaster, not as successful as you. His name is Sean Kim on Instagram. He's got 16 million followers. He's been trying to get me on this podcast for a while, but I had to go on you, Brian, first because fellow Brian, even though you spell your name with a Y, it's a we can mine's an anagram for brain, so that's the only advantage of my spelling. But he's put out a tweet today, or put out a post on Instagram, 55,000 likes so far. Do you believe in evolution? So I wrote him back provocatively. I don't believe in evolution. Not at all. I'm not, as a scientist, I don't believe in evolution. I have evidence for evolution. And that's the distinction that most people don't realize. We don't talk about belief. I don't believe in, unicorns or the tooth fairy either, but I also don't have evidence for them. So the difference between scientific pursuits that a good scientist should do, and not all scientists are good scientists. There's many bad scientists as there are bad, accountants or lawyers. So it's not immune from that. Just because we study something that seems to have no practical benefit, people assume that we're all altruistic and just want to give, of ourselves. But no, we have a whole lot of ordinary desires and greed and jealousy and envy and all sorts of petty things, as well as wonderful traits as well: curiosity, imagination, and this sense of wonder that's very childlike. And I think that's delightful. But we don't believe in things. A good scientist shouldn't believe in things. Shouldn't believe, in germs. We have evidence for germs, viruses, vaccines work, all sorts of things that are controversial to general public. But that doesn't mean I'm denigrating faith. Faith has a place as well in human endeavor. And we're creatures of faith and language. And because of that, people conflate and mix together belief and evidence. And science is the one place it shouldn't ever happen. So I don't believe in gravity. I don't believe in the Big Bang. I don't believe in evolution. I have evidence for them. So the thing, maybe to answer your first question less flippantly, that's the thing that keeps me up at night, is that the general public has a misplaced perception of how much they should trust in science and how much work and kind of activity of their mind they should outsource to scientists. So I'm trying to do my part through my, public outreach on YouTube and podcasts and so forth, and my appearances on other shows like this, to give back to the public who pay my salary a way that they can interpret and use scientific reasoning to improve their lives and improve their interpretation of this very brief moment in time in the universe's history that we get to call being young and alive.
Mm. Yeah. Isn't there some, correct me if I'm wrong, isn't there some doubts about the Big Bang right now? Wasn't there some recent thing that came out about it? I might be wrong. I'm not sure.
No, you're absolutely right. Yeah, there's always doubts. Look, the Big Bang is not the final word. Einstein is not the final word. And that's the beauty of science. Science is always provisional. That word may not be familiar to many of your listeners, or maybe it will be. Science is provisional. I could be wrong tomorrow, and that's a good thing. And scientists, most of all, should be welcoming the idea that they could be overthrown, overturned, made irrelevant. And the swifter that occurs, the better, because the more frequently you can iterate, improve your reasoning and your thought process, the better, because then you can make more progress. Again, we scientists should be very stoic. We should believe that we have a very limited amount of time to be alive, to do the type of work that we do. Most scientists do their best work when they are young, when they are, kind of below 50. I'm over 50, but younger than 50 is kind of the common age, younger than 30 even in some cases, to win Nobel Prizes, to win accolades, and so forth. So we have a limited amount of time, but we shouldn't be afraid of being wrong. And so I'm not at all afraid of finding out the Big Bang didn't happen. And in fact, I have videos on my podcast with many, many of the most eminent minds that I respect so much, and they believe the Big Bang didn't happen, or perhaps it happened in a different way than we had originally thought. But all these things are very recent in developments in this 3-pound supercomputer that sits on our shoulders called the brain. This has only been around for, 50, 60 years at most, out of 200,000 years of being Homo sapiens. So the fact that we can even comprehend this stuff, let alone prove it via data, via evidence, via scientific theories and paradigms that get overthrown and replaced by better ones. So a good way to think about this is, I've got a globe in the back. I don't know if you can see it. My bokeh is so creamy lately. I've gotten addicted to lenses and stuff, Brian. It's an addiction that hopefully my wife will forgive me for. But there's a globe in the back, sort of right around here if you've got a widescreen, and it's perfectly round. But the Earth is not perfectly round. It's not flat, and it's farther from being flat than it is from being round. So if you think it's flat, you're completely wrong. You're unequivocally wrong, the flurfers that believe that. But if you think it's round, perfectly round, you're also completely wrong in a technical sense, and that it's not round. And in order to specify its shape, we need a much more complicated, complex overturning of that. And that was a good thing, because originally people thought it was flat, and then they thought it was round, and for a long time they thought it was round. But thinking that it's purely round is also detrimental. It's flat means you think you're going to fall off the edge of the Earth. What does that do? That impedes scientific progress and exploration. People thought they'd fall off the edge of the Earth. They were more reluctant. It might be apocryphal. I'm not sure that actually was seriously believed by intelligent people or explorers even. But let's just say you believed it, that you could fall off the edge of the Earth. That would make you reluctant to explore other frontiers. You'd think there is no frontier. You just fall off the edge of the Earth. And that was bad, because believing that would impede the scientific knowledge that actually we live on a planet, and that planet goes around. And there's still millions of people that believe this. As I joke, all around the globe, there are people that believe the Earth is flat. Now, beyond that, believing the Earth is perfectly round is also a mistake, less egregious, but it's a mistake. And that would also, if you were dogmatic about that, Brian, you would then, remove the possibility that you could ever determine that the Earth is rotating, and that the Earth formed from a more molten state when it was more plastic, and its rotation causes it to bulge slightly at the equator, like some of us when we get older. The Earth bulges slightly. It's not a perfect sphere. It's a flattened, what's called, oblate spheroid. It's more spherical than flat, but always being open to overthrowing your previously held paradigm allows you to learn more and more things. And so in science, the controversy now that you alluded to in your question is whether or not the Big Bang happened. I would be overjoyed to find out either way. People ask me, what do you hope to discover with your $200 million project that you co-lead in Chile? And we can talk about that. I don't hope to find anything. I hope to discover the truth and get closer and closer to it with more and more data, more and more evidence, more and more facts, and more of this unique capability that humans can do for now, which is called the scientific method.